Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the 60 Podcast. I'm your host, Walker. Join with me.
What up, Jordan? We the champions.
Trey, how's it going?
And we got some guest stars this time. We're in op territory. Doesn't look like Trey and I's place. We're in good old Starkville, Mississippi, and we're joined by some guest pickers.
That's right. Yeah, live from Stark Vegas, Mississippi. Ben Crumby.
I'm Cole Bingham.
The one to
Looking
know.
forward looking forward to chatting about this here today.
Well, let me ask you guys this first. Favorite Mississippi State memory? I'll go with football since I know baseball championship is probably the answer. So I'll just stick with football.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a good question right there. So, favorite football memory. I mean, the low-hanging fruit, the answer that everybody wants to hear is Auburn 2014. Kind of where everything came together for that for our rise to number one that year. Yes,
you're gonna say the 3-2 game.
That's simply probably my least favorite. Probably a close second to being in Athens in 2017. But
hey,
we had a good time. Then
the final score of that game was 31-3. So But
that was a butt whipping for sure.
That was, but no, my favorite personal Mississippi State memory was probably, and although there will be, it's probably 2017 freshman year of college, or it was September the 14th against September 16th against LSU. Week 3 that year, they came in, I think, ranked number 13 in the country at the time. We were still on the come up that year. Nick Fitzgerald, year 2 as a starter, hitting his stride, and we beat LSU 37-7. Darius Geis was supposed to be a Heisman contender at the time. I think we're limited to 60 to 80. I don't even. It doesn't even matter how many he ran for because we absolutely drug him. So that day, just being a freshman in college, getting the win that day, that was probably my favorite personal memory.
Mine's kind of an oddball. So I grew up in Arkansas, and I went to Fayetteville in 2015, my first state game ever. I didn't grow up a Mississippi State fan, not really in Arkansas either. And I went to the game, and it was really cold this time of year, really. And Arkansas had just beaten Ole Miss on like the 4th and 23, the flip back pass. They got the first down. And that game was just a complete like Big 12 kind of just shootout, and it was one of the most fun games. And Dak just tore them up, and that was one of like my first like state, like this first game. And I was like, oh yeah, this is awesome. So,
Fred Ross catch.
Fred Ross had
Fred Ross
crazy one-handed catch.
Nicholas Brown block field goal.
Yeah, that was just a great game. So kind of an oddball though.
I like that. At the time, that was 6 total touchdowns. Dak Prescott. That was the school record at the time for a single game total touchdowns. I do remember that one too. Cool game.
I love it.
The pride of Arkansas right here too.
I'll commend you. I'll commend you from being able to pull these dates out of nowhere. That was kind of crazy. You're like week 3. It was September 16th, and I'm like, okay, I can't do that.
3:09 p.m. Central Time.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. As a Mississippi State fan, you get few and far between special moments, so they get pretty fortified in your mind when they occur.
Have the dates marked on the calendar.
That's right, yeah,
you're like, it's
right.
The 7-year anniversary.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
I love it. Well, I guess we'll just go straight in. I mean, our whole podcast last time was about how much we hate Tennessee. The Crumby, I know you boys definitely watched that game. Just what are the thoughts on it? Just everything that you're thinking during the game, before the game, after the game. Walker, you start things off because I haven't really talked to you about the game. We haven't really had a good laugh about it as we're planning on.
Yeah, I mean, it was complete domination. And the part that I loved the most about it was that the whole nation was watching this game too.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, just
they had more views than like the World Series that night.
13.1 million views, I think was the stat.
But I think, remember, we were talking about it in the last episode, and I was like, the stakes are so high, especially because like if we were to have lost that game, right? Just the fact that it was at home, and after Coach Dooley's passing and all this, and the people think we're overrated anyway. They say that all the time. And I don't know, it just would have been bad. So at the same time, it was very nice to see it flipped. And then obviously, oh gosh, I mean, like I said, because everyone was watching it, Twitter was going crazy. Like the memes were hilarious. I was having a great time. It was a great night.
Trey,
I agree. I mean, we dominated them from every aspect of it. I mean, they got the turnover. They got the first turnover. We're down 3-0. You're a little scared. Then Stetson throws that bomb to Arian, and then after that, we just started pouring it on them. After that punt, that really changed the game.
By the way, the goat punt. By the way,
punt.
I think
that was the best. That was one of the best punts I've ever seen.
That flipped the game. Honestly,
that was one of the best punts I've ever seen, hands down.
Yeah,
72-yarder on that was 72.
It's not even like the return guy like got it or whatever. It literally went right out in the corner at the one. That was insane.
Yeah, just another thing about the game too, though, which I guess we'll probably talk about in a second, is I mean, Georgia went up 24-6 ish at the half, and that's like right when it started raining. And seriously, like Kirby started chewing clock essentially the rest of the game.
We wasted like the whole third quarter.
Yeah.
He wasted the whole rest of the game. He was like, it's over. Time to just kill it, which was just crazy to me. I'm like, we could have put 40 on him.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
And the other thing was that the Tennessee fans are complaining about the rain. They're like, "Oh, we need to play neutral site when it's not raining." Completely different ball game. And I was like,
yeah,
no.
I think it would actually worked out for them that it didn't rain.
Well, that's what I was like. The rain's affecting us too. Like we just started running the ball.
They're idiots. They just suck at everything. I mean, to be completely honest. What about the Mississippi State point of view over here from the game? What are you guys thinking? I know Crumby's like half a dog.
He's a full dog. He's just.
I'm a full Mississippi State dog. I do hold a degree from the University of Georgia as well, and all due respect, I do. But full Mississippi State dog, full disclosure. But I think the biggest takeaway for me was the instant impact Jalen Carter had on upon return. That was, I mean, he just did up front because it was a trickle down effect. I think a lot of people, and of course Nolan Smith is, arguably was the leader of that defense, and I think was throughout the first half through on in the season. But Jalen Carter is probably, if not the most underrated, player in the country, one of them. And that's crazy to say, but it just at least
I agree.
I think he's probably one of the most talented guys out there. And I think
he should be getting as much clout as like Will Anderson and everything.
Right. In that play, I mean, it boils down to plays like he made where it should have been a safety. That was a terrible call. It didn't matter. The lad touchdown was restitution for that, but I think that was kind of my first thought on it. And then from there, it was Stetson played a very clean, very decisive game. He was confident, he was poised, hit his throws downfield. Like you said, you had the big play to Arian Smith. That was a great call. I think Kenny had the next one downfield. Broke away and they dialed him up perfectly. And I mean, you got guys, Dejon did have the turnover up front. And full disclosure to the 6-0 podcast, Dejon Edwards. I'm a huge Dejon Edwards fan personally, but no, Dejon he does incredible vision. Does a great job at picking his way through traffic. And I mean, no, it was domination. That score was in no way, shape, or form a reflection of how that game went. And all together too. We'll get into the Mississippi State part of it in a minute, but Bingham, you got any thoughts on it?
No, I was tailgating. I did not watch, but a couple of the highlights. So
we have the son of Tennessee too. So we have a special guest here who's actually from Tennessee that might want to make a quick comment about Tennessee.
Please do. Any Tennessee slander is welcome.
Tennessee's a great team, but Georgia. After that, man, Georgia put the smack down on them. I put the smack down on them, but I mean, I still got to give it to Tennessee. They kind of I felt like they showed up out of nowhere, especially after Bama and put a good game to them. So
thanks, Robbie. Pride of Tennessee right there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There we go.
All right.
I agree with everything. Kind of like everything that we said during the pod. Like receivers stepped up. The turnovers. We were saying the turnovers were a big part of how the game was going to be decided because UGA, they didn't get much turnovers and they would always turn the ball over. Well, we said if we were down by like one or two, we were probably going to lose when we tied it 2-2 in turnovers. Receivers stepped up, lads stepped up, Defense went crazy. The Knox with the
I was about to say that's what we haven't been talking
about.
about.
That's the crazy part.
Our defense, after losing 9 starters, something like that, 5 or 6 go in the first round, and they were locked down.
Let's reload again.
That recruiting class, Kirby, is built up year after year. Top 3 every year since 2017's made the difference.
Here's a guy that terrifies the absolute hell out of me because we've had trouble with these type of guys all year because these are the type of guys is Malachi Starks. Guy is a unicorn. He covers the entire field. He's athletic. He's strong. He's got good ball skills. Last week he got in the back towards the beginning of that game, if I remember correctly. He got in the backfield at least several times, and
that's something we mentioned too because in the Florida game, he had that bad read and he gives up the 90-yard touchdown. We said Tennessee was going to go after him,
he stepped up.
He stepped up. It's about guys like stepping up and everything. So
he was
tackles. Yeah, he had the most tackles last week.
He came he bursted onto the scene that first week. That interception, he made, that was one of the most incredible plays from a first game true freshman I've ever seen. And from then on, it's just, and the reason I say that, it kind of leads into a point we'll make later, is there's been a few instances this year, LSU case in point, guys like Jay Ward, athletic safety, can stretch the field, can play that nickel corner if he needs to. They've given us trouble. So that's one of those kind of key components of the game that we're going to be looking at is a guy like Malachi Starks.
Yeah,
I agree.
Going back to that Starks pick, I distinctly remember it because I was in the stadium. It was on the far side of the field from where I was looking. I was in like the opposite end zone, but I remember like the entire stadium almost like they didn't cheer right when it happened because I don't think anyone thought he actually got that.
No, I didn't.
Like,
it was crazy.
He stood up and started celebrating, and then everyone started cheering. But I don't know. It was that crazy.
It was a jaw dropper.
Oh yeah, definitely.
First game as a college athlete to make a play like that's impressive.
Kid's 18 years old. Yeah, that's
yeah. All right, so I want to move on to this, which is interesting. Trey and I were talking about this at one point, but I say the Heisman basically comes down to if CJ Stroud beats Michigan or not. So let's just say he loses against Michigan. Who's your Heisman Trophy winner? Just a prediction. If I told you Ohio State loses to Michigan, that's all I'm telling you. Who are you gonna say?
I'm gonna go first. I'm trying to think.
Bo Nix.
I'm on it too.
Everyone go. I want to hear everyone's pick.
I was also gonna. I hate like it. If you would have asked me this question months ago, and this was my answer to my past.
You asked me a month ago.
I would slap myself, but I'm kind of like, yeah, it's probably Bo Nix.
He's been unreal.
Yeah.
I would say so. It comes down to me. I think Stroud beats Michigan. Obviously, he wins the Heisman because he's going to win the Big Ten championship because the other division is very bad in the Big Ten.
Answer the question.
But it's going to be Caleb Williams or Bo Nix. Whoever wins the Pac-12, I think it will come down to those two teams. I think it'll be one of those two. Whoever wins that game.
Yeah, I mean it's just crazy because this year seems so like not cut in front, and I mean honestly, like watching Alabama play a couple times. Bryce may have be a better player this year, but he's had to.
I agree.
And I'm not saying I don't really think he'll win. To win back to back, you got to be crazy. But I honestly think it comes down to how CJ plays against Michigan or the Bo Nix, Caleb Williams kind of thing. But it is crazy to think that Bryce Young's probably played his best year's probably been this year. I mean, they're not even. They beat State, whatever. That's a different story, but
it's a stats award.
Yeah, 100% stats award. But I totally agree with you. Like Bryce has probably been having to carry the team a lot more than he did last year and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, another opinion?
Heisman? If it's not CJ Stroud?
Yeah. Probably Will Rogers if I had to give my best guess.
No, and here's another one that
if
we're just talking here, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm not going to act like this is anything probable, but I do think Drake May deserves some kind of
I agree
recognition in this conversation. The man's numbers are very comparable between year over year, 7 games versus 7 games with Joe Burrow. I mean, it's especially as a freshman, what he's done is incredible. So. Him too, but I just don't think he's going to have that.
You know how the narrative
opportunity that you have to have, to really push yourself. through that threshold.
I'm with Trey with it. Either Bo Nix or Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is really good, but it's just crazy to think about Bo Nix, how he gets from the SEC to the Pac-12 and could win a Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, he was an average quarterback at best at Auburn.
Well, we also got to give him, I also got to say, you got to give him kind of some credit for that system that he had to run at Auburn. And I'm not saying that he would have been a Heisman contender at Auburn because of obviously an enhanced competition field, but they were, Malzahn he ran a certain type of offense.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Wasn't conducive to those type of numbers.
Yeah, I was a Bo Nix guy freshman year. I was thinking, I'm like, this guy's gonna be pretty nice, and didn't really improve off his freshman year, to be honest.
Well, ironically enough, I think that first time he burst onto the scene when that game in Arlington against Oregon, that game-winning touchdown he had, was a play made by Seth Williams. And I think he was getting a little bit too much credit for
it. Well, the Iron Bowl too. I feel like that year too, probably definitely. Because he looked pretty good that game, right? He threw a couple touchdowns.
Yeah, they scored.
So definitely. So I guess we can move on to kind of college football playoff rankings and everything. Any takeaways with those rankings? Anything that you thought was a little crazy? I feel like it's not as much drama as it was last week, but also kind of playoff predictions of what you think is gonna happen. What you guys' top 4 is.
Yeah, I mean, I think things are starting to fall into place. Like I said last week, our last pod, I was like, I'm not worried. Like it is what it is. Currently they have Ohio State and Michigan in, and I'm like, well, they got to play each other. So I mean,
well, Walker, any shot that both of them are in.
Maybe if they have a really close game and they keep murdering people, maybe. I don't know.
Interesting.
I have a feeling it's going to be a tough
holding Michigan
choice.
back is that out of conference schedule.
Do what?
The one thing holding Michigan back is that out of conference schedule. Mm-hmm. That's the thing with them.
I do think it's going to come down to, I think there might be 5-ish one-loss teams, and there's only going to be 2 spots available or for those teams. So it'll be very interesting.
Yeah.
See who they choose.
My biggest takeaway, especially after this week, is I think the committee is slowly but surely setting themselves up to validate USC at 4 once they, if not once, because they do have to go through. I mean, I'm not saying that Notre Dame's not going to be a cakewalk either.
No, but UCLA too.
Yeah, but if USC is, if there's a decision to be made between a USC and a Tennessee, or a USC and a TCU, or whoever it may be, I think we're starting them at 8 this week. I think we're starting to see that progression made, and that's, we were talking about the car earlier. Where are they at?
Loss is the 1-point loss at Utah. Not a terrible loss.
Not a terrible loss, but then also not a great win against Cal this last week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's 470 total yards of offense Cal was able to generate on this. I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Just a random thought, just kind of looking at the rankings. If LSU wins out, I don't see how they don't get it, even though they're a 2-loss team. I mean, if they have to play, it's probably going to be Georgia.
It'll be interesting if it's between them and Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, I think
they smacked them, but LSU won the conference.
Yeah,
I think they would put Tennessee in. I think you would have to. It was between those two.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. I mean, if they could beat Georgia, I mean, if that's who looks like, Georgia's number 1, pretty clearly right now. And if I don't know what you do. I mean, it could. That's why they need to expand it, I guess. I don't know.
I definitely think they like to. Just in general, in all sports, they like to, when they do these rankings, they like to do not, what am I trying to say? What have you done for me recently? It's how good are these teams right now?
Yeah.
So it makes me think a team like LSU that they dropped 2 early, and now they're really starting to come together with their new coach.
And they got FSU ranked too, which helped them.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I could see a case
Yeah,
like especially if they were to beat Georgia in the SEC championship, I really think they could sneak in.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely not out of the question at all.
Would that be the first 2-loss team to make it in?
Yeah,
they would be.
Yeah, but yeah. And the thing was, and you know, talking about, I think that this year, and this might just be a total. This is just pulling this out of left field, but I think this year, if any year too, we are. I think there's the best chance for the next couple of years before we see the playoff expansion of the committee taking advantage of the opportunity to continue to put big market teams in, because once we have, you know, I mean, granted, 12 is going to be, you know, it'll be there, but with the 4 team situation, you know, we don't have the automatic buy, you know, or the auto bids right now. And I think you have the opportunity as the committee to, you know, take a 2-loss conference champion over, you know, somebody else or whoever it might be because of the expansion opportunity down the road. Because they can take all the flack they want. And once we have the automatic conference champions coming into play here in a couple of years, then, you know, there's a fix. So
yeah.
I think we make as much money as we want to right now if I'm the committee and kind of move forward with that.
Try.
If I'm looking at it from the Georgia perspective, I'd love to play. As good of a story as they are, TCU. I mean, I'd love to play TCU round 1, but
everyone does.
I wouldn't mind playing USC either. I mean, USC is the most skill position talent of any 1-loss team, I would say. But I think at the same time, their defense and in a lot of scrimmage, they're pretty weak.
Yeah, we'll fuck them up.
So I think the committee wants USC to beat Oregon in the Pac-12 championships. They don't have to have the Oregon, Tennessee, Michigan debate. But like if Oregon's from their perspective, the fact that the score was 49-3 is just going to hold them back.
I was going to ask that. What do you guys think about like how much is that UGA game going to hold Oregon back?
I don't think they seem to care too much. They had them what?
Yeah, they got them ranked 6. That's what I was thinking. They didn't seem to care too much, but
no.
What about if it comes down to them or Tennessee or Michigan?
That Tennessee game almost helps Oregon to an extent, but it's not like in the. I mean, well, if it comes down to them or Tennessee, I think I go back to my point earlier. Like, if they're the conference champion in the Pac-12, Tennessee is a 1-loss just to Georgia. Mm-hmm. They have a win against Bama. They have a win against LSU, who's going to play for the West. They'll go with Tennessee.
Yeah.
But then it goes like, what if after those 3 teams, we're just assuming all the favorites win? If who would go between Tennessee and Michigan? If Michigan, let's say Michigan loses to Ohio State,
I think it depends
or something.
By 7, I think they might put Michigan in low key.
Mississippi State.
Well, Rogers, Heisman winner.
Oh hell.
I do think though that I don't want to talk too much about Michigan, but I definitely think I think this Michigan team is a little better than we give them credit for, and I think they're better than they were last year.
I think they're pretty good. They're definitely. I mean, we'll see it against Ohio State. That's just going to answer all our questions right there to see if how for real they are. But I think they're pretty nice too. I agree. I think they're better than last year.
They've been running the ball like crazy.
But then they kind of play
like, dude.
Well, JJ McCarthy took a considerable step up too, and the only area in which they're probably, I'd probably every other position unit aside from defensive line is, I think it's better, and I think that was one of their calling cards last year. So everybody's using that as a benchmark. But yeah, no, Blake Corum is also probably one of the best players in the country, best backs in the country.
I like him a lot.
Well, I guess we'll just slide off to some picks, some game picks. So we'll do it by the spread. If you got the underdog straight up, let us know. We'll start off with LSU at Arkansas after that big win against Alabama. Little letdown spot. What are we thinking, Trey? Oh.
I understand the letdown perspective. I think
-4.
So the spread's gone from 2.5 to 4 since the opening. I think LSU is obviously much more talented than Arkansas. Arkansas being at home helps them, but at the same time, they just lost to Liberty at home. And LSU is streaking right now, so I would take LSU money line and spread on that.
Ooh, Walker.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think LSU's rolling. And what happened to Archie, by the way? I think
KJ Jefferson was hurt the last game, right? If anybody can back me up on that.
He was
hasn't been hurt every game. They're just not looking good this year.
Yeah.
They're not that good.
I feel like we all had high hopes for them. They were on an upward trajectory the last year or two with Coach Pittman, and I don't know. I thought they were going to do something.
Yeah, LSU easy covered. I mean, once again, KJ's not healthy. Rocket Sanders is a great back, but that's not, I don't think that's necessarily going to be.
They might beat them by 14.
Yeah. I think it's
20.
I don't really think it's close. I mean, Arkansas had 2 defensive starters get arrested this week. They're not playing. KJ, who knows about him? That game, Arkansas, ever since pretty much they played A&M, it's just been a spiral downhill. And I don't really think people respected how much Treylon Burks helped them last year. And they're just not what people thought they were going to be.
Jay Nasal is not Treylon Burks.
No, he's not.
Unless we give him about 30 yards of cushion.
Fun fact, I saw Jaden Hazelwood. He visited Georgia, and I was like, yo, what's up? He's like, hey, what's good? Have a good time. And then the next day, he decommitted from Georgia, so I blame myself. But we got
my all-time favorite Jordan downtown story. Jordan's literally going, Jaden, oh my God. And then literally decommitted the next day. It was hilarious. Yeah,
but we got George. It was worth the sacrifice.
It might have contributed to it.
No, I full on think that Jordan scared him and he decommitted.
No, I'm 100%. Yeah, I did.
Jordan started this domino effect of a 5-star receiver.
He's like, I don't want this kid sleeping under my bed or nothing like that.
If he would have committed to Georgia, it would have happened. I promise you that.
Oh, yeah. But I'm with you guys. If KJ Jefferson was healthy, if we knew how he would have been, I might pick Arkansas, but I'll stick with LSU.
I agree.
How about Navy Notre Dame? Notre Dame just came off that big win against Clemson. Absolutely just destroyed them.
What's the spread?
Notre Dame -17. I think Crumby had this in his little pick 'em week, so we can start it off with you.
Navy covers. I mean, I think I think once again it's too big of a spread. I think Notre Dame wins, but it is a unique offense. It's a much different offense than they faced last week. You're in a position where you're at Navy. You're coming off probably the biggest. I mean, obviously, without a doubt, probably the biggest win in their program's had in a couple of years now. And it's a letdown spot against a triple option. I buy into the Navy covering, but once again, Notre Dame to win.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame will win. It's just that offense takes so much time off the clock, and it's just hard to really blow out kind of a team like that.
Yeah. Walker, are you there? There you are.
What? Sorry, I was feeding Tom.
Notre Dame Navy. Notre Dame -17.5. Are you taking with on the spread?
Oh, geez. I have no idea how good Navy is. But I don't think Notre Dame's that good.
They just beat Clemson, bro.
Delaware earlier in the year, if I remember correctly. Is that? I just picked them to cover, but
I'd probably take Notre Dame, I guess.
Try.
Yeah, I mean, like Cole was saying, that Navy offense eats up a lot of clock, so I think this one's tough to pick. If you put a gun to my head, I'm picking Navy +17, but that's a betting line I would stay away from just because you don't really know which Notre Dame team's going to show up, and Navy they got that weird offense, so you just don't know with that game. So like I said, I would take Navy if I had to, but I would stay away from that spread.
Yeah, you stole the words right out of my mouth. I don't know if Notre Dame's good or not yet. So, and with Navy with the triple option waste of money, as Cole said, I guess I'll go with Navy, but let's move on to a huge game, CBS game, Alabama at Ole Miss. I think I know what Crumby and Cole are going to pick, so let's just get it over with. Make your picks.
No, I mean I'm not. I mean, so are we thinking against the spread or are we thinking
the spread -12?
Yeah, I'm taking Ole Miss to cover. I truly think the way that Alabama has played on the road this year, the way that they have not been able to combat good rushing attacks whatsoever. And Ole Miss arguably is, I mean, I'm going to say take off my Mississippi State hat for a second, probably has the best rushing attack in the conference. And Jenkins and Zach Evans, that's a and Jack, not to mention Jackson Dart has that threat as well. And I mean, they can, in every single year, and other than last year, I think this is the game that Lane Kiffin is going to get his guys up for. So I'm not saying, in terms of just against the spread, 12 points is a little too much for me. I say Ole Miss covers that. Once again, it's a compound pick, but I'm not going to take them with the points. But I'm going to say, probably Alabama wins the game more than likely, or Alabama wins the game. But yeah, Ole Miss covers that spread.
Cole,
yeah,
like Crumby.
Oh.
I mean, I don't think Ole Miss will win. I do think they'll cover, as much as I hate to say it, just because they had a bye week last week. Kiffin is amazing at scripting. The first drive of the game, they look like they can beat anybody. I mean, it's just like 4 plays and a touchdown. With them having a bye week, they have, who knows what he's got up his sleeve. Kiffin, as much as I hate to say it, is a great coach. He's doing a lot with the team that I think has a very average to above, slightly above average roster. And I do not think they will win by any means, but just because they can script the first half so well, I do think they might, keep a little close, and Bama can break away later in the game. But I don't think it'll be more than 12.
Get some popcorn.
Yeah, I think I completely agree too. Just kind of everything. Bama hasn't been playing well on the road, and Ole Miss is solid, and 12 points is a lot, so I'd probably take that.
Try.
Yeah, so I'm keeping it with the guys. I mean, I think same ordeal. Bama's winning the game. Ole Miss is covering probably something like 34-27, something like along the lines of that. Damn. Bama wins, but I think Bama's obviously just too talented to lose that game but they've been suspect on the road at the same time. But Bama's outside of Georgia, maybe Ohio State is the most talented team still. But I think Ole Miss hangs enough points to keep up with them, but Alabama just wears them out at the end and wins the game. But
yeah,
Ole Miss covers.
Yeah, you guys basically stole my answers. When I saw minus 12, I was shocked. I thought it was gonna be like,
7 or 8.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be like 8 or 9, but 9 at most. But
here's another thing
but that might be where they want us. That might be where Vegas wants us.
We talked about this earlier too, but what does Bama have to play for at this point?
Exactly. How is Saban gonna?
I mean, I'm not gonna say,
yeah, 100%.
And we're sitting here talking, Will Anderson is, gives a post game interview against Tennessee and says that essentially that they weren't prepared to go play that game on the road in a hostile environment, and nowhere near the type of environment is going to be fostered in Oxford. But I just, what do they have? That's a team that is, how motivated are they? And I guess we'll find out tomorrow, because they could come out and win by 40 points. They could come out and lose the game. That game's a toss up. If I'm putting my own money on it, I'm not betting. But at the same time, I do think Ole Miss covers.
Yeah, I agree. Like literally, I wouldn't be surprised if whatever happens. If you're making me bet, I'll trust Ole Miss just given what I've seen this season from Bama and everything. But I agree. If can you get these guys up for this kind of game, because it's still a big game and everything. So LSU could easily lose at Arkansas and at A&M. Easily. I mean, honestly, both on the road, both rivalry games. So it'll be interesting. So what about this? Another upset alert. Crumby, we were talking about this one. Clemson, Louisville. How's Clemson going to come back from that Notre Dame win? They're minus 6.5. So
they'll do it. I mean, I know, once again, that was a huge letdown, terrible game. But at the end of the day, I think now that they know kind of where their cards fall as far as what they need to do with the quarterback position, that gives them more play calling freedom. It gives them more, it kind of tells them how they need to approach the game, because they do have a very good backfield. And that's something that's been a consistent all year. And that front is, they've got a solid front. But I think now that we're 3 games into this situation, and DJ is a great person, great guy, but he and it. So I mean, I think that's that's one that's at home, and Dabo will get his guys up for it.
I think the more physical team wins. So I mean, I don't really see this one being anything super special, but I do think Clemson will win by over 6.5. I believe it is.
Yep.
Walker.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything. I think they'll be fine. I don't think Louisville's that good, are they? I haven't seen them play.
What
But...
is it?
Somehow by the grace, they're covering like wildfire at this point, but Satterfield has saved his job. That's pretty much it.
100%.
Malik Cunningham's a talented athlete, the quarterback of Louisville, but I don't know if he can break down a defense more talented than him, like Clemson. And I think Clemson will get to him and make him make decisions that aren't ideal. So I think Clemson wins by 2 scores. So I think we'll cover as well.
I'm with you. I think Clemson will cover as well. If it was at Louisville, it'd be a little more suspect of it. But since it's in Clemson and everything, and Dabo's obviously an established coach, he can get these guys pumped up for this game. They still got everything in front of them. So I'll go with Clemson as well. But let's go with where game day's going. TCU, Texas. TCU getting some sort of respect. They're ranked 4, but Vegas doesn't respect them. Texas minus 7.5. What's our takes? Is it hook 'em horns or go Horned Frogs, Trey?
Am I starting it off okay?
Yeah, we're switching it up.
I think it's interesting because TCU's ranked 4. They're playing a 3-loss team on the road, and they're a touchdown underdog. So I'm taking Texas to win the game. They're more talented. I mean, they're at home. TCU's kept it close the last 4 or 5 weeks. But I think TCU will cover. I think it'll be like a 1-score game, but I don't know if it'll be a touchdown or a field goal. So I think it's one of those situations where TCU covers, but they lose the game and drop out of playoff contention.
Walker.
Let's get horny. I like the Horned Frogs. I think their quarterback's pretty good. They have like 2 really good receivers, or at least one. I think.
Yeah,
Johnson,
the guy with the dreads.
Yeah,
Johnson.
Yeah. That guy's a beast. And also, I don't know. Texas seems to choke in the big games recently. I don't have any faith in them until something changes. They beat Oklahoma, but that doesn't even count this year. So I'm going Horned Frogs. It might be close. Like, they might not win or whatever. They might cover, but I think they'll win.
Texas cover. Texas win. Texas by, I hate to admit it, but I don't think TCU's seen anywhere close to the type of, to what Quinn Ewers brings to the table. And if they can establish the run game, control the ball with Bijan earlier, I gotta go, especially at home and kind of, the situation because they got an opportunity to play in the Sugar Bowl or whatever they're.
Yeah.
So I think I got the horns.
I hate to keep copying you, I feel like but I just think this is a really good spot for Texas to kind of, it's a big night game for them. And I know this year has kind of been shaky and they feel like they've lost a lot of close games or whatnot, but I just think this is a really a kind of a Quinn Ewers restamping. I'm going to be that guy next year, so I think that's going to be part of it.
Season defining game.
Yeah.
It's a season defining.
Yeah, kind of we're back on the map kind of thing, like we win in that big game. I'm with Trey. I mean, I agree with everything Trey said. Kind of like TCU is going to keep it close. Kind of like a mixture of this just seems like a close game. Like just everything about it just seems like a Texas win, but like a 4-point game or something. So. I'll go with Texas, but TCU covers. But now we're into the game of the week over here, where game day should have gone. The Dawgs versus the Dawgs. UGA minus 16.5. Mississippi State boys, take it home. You guys can start it off.
Colin, I'll let you start on this one. So.
Okay, so I'll do the less of the. I don't really know on the cover thing. It's hard to say. I think this can kind of go one of 2 ways. And I actually wrote down some stuff that I think State's got to do just to keep it close. Okay. If they come out like they did last week against Auburn, they're going to lose by 40. I think that's pretty fair to say. So, offensively, State's got to have tempo. When they start slowing stuff down, it kills them. When they run tempo and run fast, it's their best friend. And Mike Leach gets out of it. I'm not really sure why. I know he likes to. It's kind of a take possession time offense somewhat. He won't admit it, but that's what it does. So we got to have tempo. I think we've got to try to run the ball. The games we have looked like really good. We've ran the ball a lot. We had more rushing yards at Arkansas and A&M individually than we have in the last 3 games. I think that's a big problem. And it's not even like it's not working. Last week we had I think, average around 5 yards a carry. And we just quit running the ball because they put 6 guys in the box and we check out to a pass. We passed 24 straight times in the game last week, and that's just not going to work against Georgia. They're going to, you got the good D line. They're going to, aim at Will, and they're going to hurt Will Rogers. He's got to get the ball out quick. I think so. And we can't be scared to throw 50-50, one-on-one balls. We have pretty good outside receivers in Caleb Ducking and Ra Thomas, and they can win some jump balls, I think. So, I think offensively, I don't know. We played pretty good at home. Last week was awful. Hopefully we got it out of our system as far as that. And then defensively, our defense really in the first half of games, we've looked really good this year. If you look at a lot of our defensive splits, we give up a lot more points at the end of games. I don't know if that's due to being tired or what. Big thing this week, they said Emmanuel Forbes is back. He did not play last week. He might be the lone player on our team that I think talent-wise could play for Georgia. He has a lot of talent, leads the SEC in interceptions, and if he gets it in his hands, watch out, he might take it back. I think you got to have a big play for him. And then Jaden Crumby, our DN, was a preseason All-SEC player. He came back last week, and first play of the game outside the zone was a tackle for a loss. He's a difference maker. I'm glad he's back this week. But to say all that, what's it now, 16 and a half?
16 and a half, yeah.
It's the line movement, Trey.
16 and a half is crazy, right?
I'm gonna say, just because I'm a homer, I'll say they cover because it'll make it a lot more fun tomorrow. But if they don't cover, it's going to be a lot worse than 16 and a half. It's either going to be they're in the game in the fourth quarter, talent wins, we get tired. And I just want to say we'll cover just because it'll make my day a whole lot more fun. But we'll see. It's exciting. The town's kind of buzzing. It's a sold-out game. It's a chance to have the best team in the country come and play. Georgia's by far the best team in the country. I don't know. This year, honestly, sad as it's been, it's kind of been a letdown. In some ways, you're up on a good LSU team in the fourth quarter. You can't hang on. Kentucky, you just play asleep. And Bama, it's the most boring, it's the closest 30-6 game you'll ever watch in your life. So I don't know. Maybe this is the game the team really it's a senior driven team. Defense is super, old guys. I don't know. I don't know. Why not? We'll cover. Sure. Have fun.
Trying to talk yourself into it.
I guess.
All right. So everything we've done in the last 2 weeks. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and call a spade a spade. We looked like shit last week. We didn't look great against. I'm not even going to address the Bama game, like you said. That was probably the closest 30-6 loss you'll ever see. We outgained them.
They had 26 yards rushing.
Yeah. But from the bye week on, everything we've done, and I fully believe this, and this could just be total speculation, but I think everything we've done as a team has been geared toward this particular game. I don't think and no disrespect to Auburn, but especially the way we played from the Tulu Griffin kickoff return to about, the fourth quarter of last week, you could tell that the air was let out of the tires and that we were not prepared to play that game. And and I think a lot of that is attributed to the fact that we have set our sights on this game as a program, as a team. Like we just said, hey, look, here's our opportunity. Here's our niche. Because after that Kentucky game, we knew what was going to happen going into Bama, especially after that loss to Tennessee, and that happened on the same day. We said, we knew what was going to happen going into that game, and we competed that day. That sounds crazy to say, but Woody Marks, he came out there and he played a game where he had a broken nose, and he was still pushing for 2 to 3 extra yards after contact, on 4th and 1. And all the way to the last possession where we scored as time expired, we were going for it on 4th down. We were rolling the dice and we competed. But, from then on, we go into the bye week, and I truly think we've geared our preparation, our team, to play this game tomorrow. With that said, there are a few, and I'll address them up front. There are a few disparities, especially, up front at the line of scrimmage. Derek Hall said it last week coming into the game, and it came to fruition. The splits that we have, especially as a team that runs air raid, we have some pretty wide splits. And he looked at that and he said, "Man, I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna eat this week," and that he did. Those 5 sacks. I think they had 5 sacks for almost 40 yards total, and that all pretty much came between the once again after that kick return and towards the fourth quarter. But with that said, our offensive line is still kind of settling back into place. LaQuinston Sharp, a guy who's played a lot of football for Mississippi State, he just came back last week. He did not play a great ball game, but I fully understand. He's knocked the rust off. The way I look at this game, and I'm just going to speak from a positive Mississippi State Sunshine Pumper perspective right here. There is one path to winning this football game. It exists in us getting the ball first. It exists in us controlling the clock. It exists in Dylan Johnson being more healthy than the 60% I think he was at last week. And anybody that watched that game against Auburn knew Dylan Johnson was not fully healthy. The best games that we've played this year, we've got his full output. The best games we played this year, we've got a full rushing output. The worst games we've had this year, we've had less than 30 yards rushing. Case in point last week, case in point Kentucky, so on and so forth. The biggest, so that's disparity number one, is Jalen Carter and the rest of that Georgia front against our offensive line, especially after what happened last week. Another big disparity is Malachi Starks over the middle. We've really struggled against athletic safeties that can cover the whole field. I mentioned it earlier, but Jay Ward at LSU killed us. I mean, if you look back and see the game he played against us, that was the X factor there. Mm-hmm. They kind of stretched him out, made him a nickel type of corner that day, took out the dump pass. I mean, I don't know how Kirby's going to approach this game. I don't know if we're going to, if we're going to see a different look from them or what have you. I don't think so. I think they're going to stay true. I think they're going to stick to what they're going to stick to what they've done. But at the end of the day, I think there might be some opportunity over the middle there. I think Malachi Starks is going to be active in the backfield. I think he's going to be really focused on our backs. I think Dylan Johnson's going to be more healthy this week. I think Morty Walsh is going to be more healthy this week. And I think there's going to be some opportunities over the middle between the numbers. Another big disparity, the tight ends. I mean, I know I'm taking the words right out of Trey's mouth. I don't know who we're going to have to combat Brock Bowers. I don't know let's even talk beyond Brock Bowers. I don't know who we're going to have to combat Darnell Washington. That man is a unicorn too, in and of himself. I mean, I love our outside backers. I love our safeties, but at the end of the day, what are we going to see? But I think, honestly, we may combat that with some of our stunts, some of our 3-3-5. Georgia hadn't seen a 3-3-5 this year. I mean, Kirby made a comment this last week. They had to take time out of their bye week before the Florida game just to scheme against a 3-3-5 set that, they haven't seen. That's kind of what Zach Arnett thrives on. He creates chaos. He creates these opportunities to get in the backfield, guys like, Tyrus Wheat. And now we have Jaden Crumby back to really set that, develop those opportunities to come off the stunt. But beyond all that, beyond numbers, beyond everything else, the one way that we win this game, the one way that we're able to even cover that 16 is turnovers, ball control. We need to contain the edge because that's something we have not done well in the last few weeks. I mean, you saw it last week. Case in point, Jarquez Hunter was able to really take advantage of that. And I'm going to go back to what I said about Dejon Edwards earlier. He is very shifty. He's very versatile back. He picks through chaos really well. And I mean, if he can get it to the outside, then yeah, you'll be able to control the ball. But kind of building off what Steve said too here is Emmanuel Forbes, I think, is a huge X factor here in terms of taking away maybe some of those large chunk plays. But frankly, I think tomorrow we got to get our crowd into it early. Either us, and that comes two ways. You guys at Missouri, Kendall Milton fumbled that ball on the first drive of the game, and I think that was a huge momentum shifter. If we can force a turnover early, that's huge. If we can come out and we can control the ball with a 6-minute drive off the rip, that's huge. So I think the first 8 to 10 minutes of that game are going to be a defining factor. And, beyond getting too into the weeds, I'm going to say it. Mississippi State in the points went out right. 41-38 final score. Hail State. Sponsored by Busch Light Bottle.
There you go.
Robbie?
I don't have a lot of numbers to talk about, but one thing I do have to talk about is I think it was Tim Tebow said it, how boringly efficient Georgia is as a team. They're so boring to watch, but they're so damn good. And I have no doubt in my mind that tomorrow, we're probably gonna lose by more than 20. But what I'm holding on to is everyone's been saying all freaking week that Mississippi State hasn't won the game that they're supposed to lose, and this just might be the game. It might be Ole Miss later, but tomorrow I'm just thinking it might be Georgia. And also I said Will Rogers is the Heisman, so he's got to live it up to it.
Exactly. You're not going to win if you get against the Heisman.
Yeah, so tomorrow might be that game that determines the Heisman for him. So we'll see.
Heisman moment.
There you go.
All right, boys. Mississippi State in the points. Mississippi State outright.
All right, Walker.
No, I think Georgia wins and wins by more than 16. I think it could be like you were kind of saying. I think it could be potentially close early. If the crowd stays into it and they can get something moving like really early. We slow start. Georgia is famous for doing that sometimes. You look at the Kent State and Missouri games, especially. Like it can definitely happen. And also, I mean, this was kind of what is this our last real road test?
We got Kentucky next week. If you consider that. Then we got Tech.
Okay. For some reason, I thought Kentucky was at home, but never mind. I don't know. Yeah, I've had this game circled for a little while. I think it's a tough one. I definitely remember when we were looking at the first half of our schedule, it was a lot weaker than the second half, and I was like, we're playing this game. Well, we had Tennessee, then this game. That was before Florida too. Before I knew Florida was terrible. But definitely, yeah, I was looking at this game thinking that this one scared me a little more than the others. I'll give you that. But yeah, I think Georgia takes care of business. Whether it's pretty or not, we'll have to see because sometimes it isn't. But I think we get the dub, and everything works out.
Try.
Okay, I'll start by this. My score prediction is going to be 41-17. I think Georgia covers, but that 16.5 spread. But I don't know if the only thing I'm worried about from our perspective is our receivers because Emmanuel Forbes is a really good corner. He's a good corner, but I don't think anyone on Mississippi State's middle of their secondary, like their safeties, linebackers have gone up against a guy like Brock Bowers, even Darnell Washington. I don't think they've ever covered a dude 6'7", 270 or anyone that big and athletic like Brock. I mean, Georgia will run the ball decently enough, but I think after we played B+ football against Florida, I would say, but I think outside of the third quarter we were A+ football. We played the best team we played all year last week and we blew them out. So I think we're looking pretty good right now. We're the national championship favorites. We're the defending national champions. All that into consideration. These are the type of games Georgia should win easily, I think. I mean, Mississippi State's got a decent program. They're not a bad team. It's just the talent disparity is too large for me to think they'll keep it close,
Yeah, that's what I was about to go in at. I think it might be a little suspect at first. If you want my score prediction, I'll say 38-20. I think it could definitely be a little suspect at first. It's kind of a letdown spot right after the big Tennessee fan game or whatever, big Tennessee win. It goes from everybody disrespecting you to now everybody hyping you up, saying you definitely win the national championship now. Could be a letdown spot, a place we haven't been in 12 years and on the road and everything in the SEC. Mississippi State's not a bad team. Smart coach and Coach Leach and everything. Could be a letdown spot. I think it'll be a little close in the first half, but I think we're just bigger, faster, stronger, we're deeper, kind of how you were going in. And we'll pull away in the second half. 38-20 is my guess. Yeah, I guess we cover then. So
yeah, well, I mean, I'll say too. Another thing we have to consider, regardless of where the game ends up at, is utilizing our middle linebackers too. Like Jed Johnson, last week we did an incredible job spying Robbie Ashford until the third quarter for whatever reason. I went away after him, and then a guy like Jed Johnson and Buki setting the edge. We have to maintain that. We have to contain, because I think Stetson can also be a sneaky X factor in this game on the ground.
Yeah,
He's very slippery. He's done this, throughout the entire year. We got several athletes on our front. I mean, we got a very deceptive, pass rush, and we don't need to sell out in that sense. And so I'm interested to see how we play that, because it did come to the point last week where that just, went away after that. Once again, I think the turning point in that game was after that Tulu kick return, and we let them get back into it. So,
that's one more thing I was going to mention is, last week, Tulu, he's one of our receivers. He was our great returner. We moved him to punt return. He never played punt return.
Yeah.
And, I don't know kickoffs. Georgia's got good enough kickers. They'll probably kick you out of the back of the end zone every time. But now that he's on punt, he is probably one of the most electrifying return men in the country. And I don't just say that to every time you get the ball, you kind of expect him to return it. And it might not be a touchdown, but, if he can flip the field a couple times, he's a difference maker. And he's a guy like this in a big game who's got to have some weird plays. I don't know if he got a couple balls over the middle. He's the kind of guy who, if you throw in the ball 5 times, he's probably going to break a 50-yard run just because he's just slippery and he's just hard to tackle. So he's a guy I think State has got to feed him, because he is the one guy we really can't game plan around him just because he's not necessarily electrifying. He's just so quick. And, he's not probably 5'10", 170 pounds, but he's just really an electric player.
Yeah. We gotta out. Yeah, no, I agree. If we're gonna win this game, we gotta outthink y'all, and that's just it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be death by 1,000 cuts. Yeah. We're not gonna explosive plays. That's not how we're gonna win this game. We can't have any drops. Last week we saw ourselves, go through a few drops in games that we've lost this year, whether it's Bama, whether it's Kentucky. There's been drops, and then play discipline as well. We can't, Fortunately, at home, the penalties haven't been as much of an issue. But I don't know.
And this X factor right here, I think this might play a little bit of part of the game. It's a little bit louder than Columbia, Missouri, so that might be something to keep our eyes
on. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, Walker, you got any last remarks?
Nope. Other than go Dawgs, let's take care of business.
Trey?
Go Dawgs. I've always thought of Mississippi State. Me and Ben grew up as youngins together. I've always liked Mississippi State and followed them. I just think this is the prime of Georgia football in our lifetimes so far. So I just think they can't hang like the whole game. I respect them. It's just they can't hang this year. So go Dawgs, but both perspectives though.
Yeah, kind of bouncing off what Trey said. It is the prime. I'm greedy. I want back-to-back national championships. Get into that Bama tier if we can win it this year and everything. So,
hey, but everybody can be satisfied. You guys can still lose this game and win the national championship. So why don't we just come to a compromise?
Unfortunately, I can't do that.
This is the game that I think Trey and I have been, specifically, like you said, grew up next door to each other. He's never been to Starkville. And we're looking forward to seeing this in person, and we'll see. I got all the respect in the world for Georgia as well. Also hold a degree from there, but Hail State, man. It's
Yeah. Well, I guess my last remarks are, we're in Starkville right now. Love it so far. About to check it out tonight. Should be fun. Should be a good game and everything. If you made it till this point, comment in the comment section. Busch Light. Sponsored by Busch Light.
Sponsored by Crumby and the Mississippi State Boys.
Yes. Shout out to them. Now we'll make some money.
Busch Latte to be more specific.
That'll be it for it, but you know what to do. Subscribe, like. Peace.